Dear students, let me start the new topic, diffraction of light. It is our common experience that when an obstacle is placed in the path of light, shadow is formed on the other side of the obstacle. From this observation, it is said that light travels in a straight line. When the size of the obstacle is large, the shadow formed is perfectly dark. But if the size of the obstacle is comparable with the wavelength of light, then the spreading of light in the geometrical shadow region is observed. This is possible only when light bends around the edges of the obstacle. See here, AB is an obstacle. S is the source of light. So when AB is large compared to the wavelength, let D be the size of the obstacle. If it is very large compared to the wavelength, in that case, the shadow of the obstacle is formed on the screen. And this PQ is called the geometrical shadow region. Here, it is completely dark. A perfect dark shadow is formed on the screen. And from this, what we conclude is light travels in a straight line. But if D is approximately equal to lambda, what is D? Size of the obstacle. Or if D is very much less compared to lambda, in these two cases, it is observed that light is found or spreading of light in the geometrical shadow region is observed. It is possible to observe spreading of light in the geometrical shadow region. PQ is the geometrical shadow region. So spreading of light is observed here means PQ, the geometrical shadow, is not perfectly dark. How it is possible? How can light enter into the geometrical shadow region? This is possible only when light could bend around the edges. If light bends this way, instead of traveling in a straight line, if light could bend around the edges, then only it is possible for light to enter the geometrical shadow region. So here what it says, the appearance of light in the geometrical shadow region says that light must have bent around the edges. This bending of light around the edges of an obstacle and hence spreading of light in the geometrical shadow region, this is called as diffraction of light. What is diffraction? Bending of light around the edges of the obstacle and spreading of light in the geometrical shadow region. See, light spreads around the edges also in the geometrical shadow, not in the whole region, but it spreads. We find some light, a little amount of light in the geometrical shadow region near the edges or near the ends of the geometrical shadow. This is called diffraction of light. And the example for diffraction is the brilliance of spider web. When it is spider web is illuminated by light, it appears colored. It's very brilliant. That is due to diffraction. And one more example is when we see the sunlight with half shut eyes, then we can see the light streaks. In the eyelashes, you can see the light streaks. This is also due to diffraction. So what is diffraction? Bending of light. This diffraction phenomena is explained by using Huygens wave theory. By applying Huygens wave theory, this diffraction phenomenon is explained. How light bends or how it is possible for light to bend around the edges of the obstacle. So let me consider the same example AB. It's an obstacle placed in the path of light. Let the size of this obstacle, let it be comparable with the lambda. Slightly less than lambda or comparable with the wavelength of light. Comparable, almost same as that of the light or less than that. Now, see, for convenience, here it is taken large, but let it be comparable with the wavelength of the light. Now see, how bending is explained is, according to Huygens wave theory, light spreads in the form of wavefronts. Spherical, cylindrical or plane wavefronts are considered. Here, let us consider a spherical wavefront. We denote the spherical wavefront like this. This is the incident spherical wavefront. Light spreads in the form of wavefronts. So this is the incident wavefront on this obstacle. Now here, the obstacle completely blocks this part of the wavefront. This is completely blocked. So there is no light on the other side. But as this wavefront spreads, what happens? Its radius goes on increasing. Wavefronts are spreading with increasing radii, so that as it propagates, this part is blocked in the medium, and finally as they travel farther and farther away, then there the light, it enters into the geometrical shadow region. That's why some light is seen in the geometrical shadow region. The spreading of light is observed in the geometrical shadow region because the wavefront, it enters the geometrical shadow region. This is how the wave theory explains the bending of light. So, in order to explain bending, light should possess the wave nature, or wave nature of light is considered to explain the diffraction. That straight line motion or rectilinear propagation is using this, we can't explain this diffraction. And diffraction is also observed in case of the opening. The opening is nothing but it's called the slit. Let AB be a slit, just the opening. Size of this opening, let it be comparable with the wavelength of light. In this case also, suppose this is a screen placed. Here the source of light. Light enters and see here. In this region PQ, it is completely illuminated one. There should be complete brightness above P and below Q. In these regions are the shadow regions, geometrical shadow regions. So if light bends around the edges of this slit, if bending is possible, then one can see a spreading of light in this geometrical shadow region. That is nothing but diffraction. So since light bends around the edges like this, so there will be some light in the geometrical shadow region. This also due to diffraction. Here AB is the slit, having size comparable with the wavelength of light. How Huygens wave theory explains, see, this is the incident wavefront. Now, these portions are blocked. As the wavefront propagates, as the wavefront advances, what happens? Slowly, it enters into the geometrical shadow region. This is how the encroachment of light in the geometrical shadow region is explained. And this is about diffraction of light. In diffraction, there are two types: Fresnel type and Fraunhofer type. See here, in Fresnel type diffraction, the source of light and the screen are at finite distance from the obstacle. See, this is the source and this is the screen. In case of Fresnel type diffraction, the source of light and the screen are at finite distance from the obstacle or the slit. The distances are finite. Whereas in Fraunhofer diffraction, the distances are infinite. The screen is at infinite distance. The source is also at infinite distance from the obstacle. And in case of Fresnel type, the incident wavefront is either cylindrical or spherical in shape. Whereas in Fraunhofer type, the incident wavefront is a plane wavefront. And see, in Fresnel type diffraction, the distances are finite. So, convex lens is not used to focus the diffracted rays on the screen. It is, see, since the distances are finite, the lenses are not required to focus the diffracted rays on the screen. Whereas in Fraunhofer diffraction, the distances are infinite. So that the incident wave, see here, this is the slit, the source of light, and the obstacle here, and the screen. The distances are large. So, the incident wavefront is assumed to be the plane wavefront. Plane wavefront means all the rays are parallel. To make these rays parallel, the parallel rays are incident on the slit AB. Incident rays are parallel means the wavefront is plane wavefront. To make these rays parallel, then the source, what we use here, there should be at the focus point of a lens. A lens is used to render the rays parallel. And when the incident rays are rendered parallel, when the source is at the focus point of the lens. So, one convex lens is used to render the rays parallel to make the wavefront plane, and one more one more convex lens is used to focus the diffracted rays on the screen to make the rays to converge at a point on the screen after diffraction from this slit. See, this is not there. The rays are moving like this. This is not there. We have used the slit here. This one is not there. Obstacle is not there. So that the rays are the diffracted rays. They move like this. These are the diffracted rays. And all those diffracted rays are made to fall on the lens. Then, after refraction from the lens, those rays are made to converge at a point on the screen. This is how. In Fraunhofer diffraction, lenses, convex lenses are used. One to render the rays parallel to make the wavefront plane, and another to focus the diffracted rays on the screen. And one more difference between Fresnel type and Fraunhofer is, Fresnel type diffraction, even though the distances are finite, the mathematical, getting the pattern on the screen is easier, but mathematical analysis is very complex in case of Fresnel type. Whereas in case of Fraunhofer type, mathematical analysis is simple. Using lens, the diffracted rays are converged on the screen, then the mathematical analysis is simple in case of Fraunhofer type. These are the differences between the two types of diffraction, Fresnel type and Fraunhofer type. Now, let us discuss the theory of Fraunhofer diffraction. In your syllabus, Fresnel type diffraction is not discussed straight away. Let me discuss Fraunhofer type diffraction at a single slit. Now, consider a slit. Consider a slit of width A. Let AB be a slit of width A. Let this slit AB be illuminated by monochromatic light of wavelength say lambda. And this is the Fraunhofer type diffraction. The rays from the source of light are rendered parallel, so the incident wavefront is a plane wavefront. Rays are incident parallel, so a plane wavefront is incident on the slit AB. A is width of the slit. Mn is the screen placed on the other side of this convex lens. This convex lens is again used to focus the diffracted rays on the screen. See here, if you consider the rays which are traveling parallel to the incident direction. See, these are the rays parallel in a direction. These are the rays traveling in a direction parallel to the direction of incidence. See, all these rays are focused at this point P. These are incident on the convex lens. From there, they refract and they converge at the point P, where P is the central point of the screen. So, all the rays traveling in the direction of the incident ray, parallel to the direction of the incident ray, all are focused at the point P, at the center of the screen. Now, consider the rays traveling in a direction making an angle theta with the normal direction. See, these are the normal directions. Consider the rays traveling in a direction making an angle theta with the normal. Now, here theta is called the angle of diffraction. These rays traveling in a direction making an angle theta with the normal are, after refraction from the lens, they converge at the point P dash. They converge at P dash. Let P dash be at a distance x from the center P. Now, at this point P, all the rays, the diffracted rays, what's the angle of diffraction for those rays? Theta is 0. They are traveling in the direction same as that of the incident ray. So, this point P, here, all the rays, see, here we have considered the three rays coming from the parts A, O and B. These rays, they travel the same path, then converge at P, so that their path difference 0, so that they meet this point simultaneously, so that this point P, center of the screen, is always a point of maximum intensity. Of maximum intensity fringe or a point P is a point of maximum intensity is called as central maximum or principal maximum. A principal maximum is formed at this point P, at the center of the screen. What's the reason? The reason is all the rays are traveling with, say, the phase difference, or the rays meeting each other at this point are having phase difference 0 or the path difference 0. Now consider this ray. The rays traveling with an angle theta, make an angle theta with the direction of incidence. So theta is angle of diffraction. Now this point P, whatever the intensity of, P dash. Now whatever the intensity at this point P dash, P is always a bright point, a maximum intensity point, central maximum. Now P dash, it may be bright or it may be dark. Say, when diffraction takes place in a slit, then a diffraction pattern is formed on the screen. And that diffraction pattern formed on the screen consists of a maximum intensity band at the center called the central maximum. This is the central maximum where it is formed at the center. And on either side of this central maximum, alternate bright and dark fringes are formed. What are fringes? You have studied about the fringes in interference. What are fringes? Fringes are having different shapes in interference. We studied about the straight line fringes. What are fringes? The bands or the lines having alternate intensity formed on the screen. Bright having intensity, maximum or minimum. Maximum and minimum intensity bands or fringes formed on the screen. In case of diffraction also, but these diffraction fringes are different from that of the interference. What are the differences? Let us discuss it later. Now, in diffraction also, a pattern is formed. A fringe pattern is produced on the screen. We call them as diffraction fringes, or it is the diffraction pattern. So now, at this point P dash, whatever the intensity, whether intensity is maximum or minimum, to find out that, let us find out the path difference between the diffracted rays meeting each other at P dash. See, these are the rays meeting each other at P dash. Now let us find out the path difference between them. To find the path difference, see in the diagram, drop a perpendicular from perpendicular AC on the ray coming from B. AC is the perpendicular drawn to the ray coming from B, the point B. Now, this angle is also theta, equal to the angle of diffraction. Now, this is a right angle triangle. In this triangle, define sine theta. What is sine theta? Opposite by the hypotenuse, AB. So, it is BC by AB. Or BC is AB sine theta, that is BC equal to A sine theta. What is AB? Slit width, A. So, BC is A sine theta. What BC gives? See, this BC is nothing but path difference between the waves coming from the point A and the point B, or the wavelets. We can call them as wavelets. The wavelets coming from A and wavelets from B, they differ in path by BC. See, from this point onwards, they travel the same path. So, this is the difference, path difference. So, path difference between the secondary wavelets coming from the points A and B meeting each other at P dash is given by BC. BC is A sine theta. This is about the path difference in general. So here the expression says path difference depends on theta angle of diffraction. As theta changes, path difference also changes. Now to find the intensity at P dash, let us find out the condition. To find the intensity at P dash. For this, let us assume that the intensity at the point P, let it be minimum. Assume the intensity at P dash is minimum. Now, let theta be such that to produce that minimum. What's that minimum? See, minimum is nothing but this point. This is the first minimum. First minimum, second minimum, third minimum, and so on either side. So this is the first, say P dash is the point of first minimum, say. To get that point, let theta be such that BC, that is A sin theta, let it be 1 lambda. Let A sin theta path difference be, let it be 1 lambda. This is the assumption. In that case, this AB, that slit width, A and B are the points, the 2 points from where the wavelets are coming or emerging, or they are traveling with the angle theta. Let this AB be divided into 2 equal parts, AO and OB. Now, the path difference between the corresponding points of AO and OB. Consider any 2 points from the regions AO and OB. 1 point from AO, 1 point from OB. The path difference between these 2 corresponding points is also equal to, say, from here consider the points between A and O. So consider point between A and O, the path difference. See, the full path difference is lambda. We have taken A sin theta as 1 lambda. So this AB path difference between the wavelets coming from A and B is lambda. So that path difference between the wavelets coming from A and O, it is lambda by 2. Path difference between wavelets coming from O and B also lambda by 2. So that when the wavelets from AO and OB, they meet each other at that point P dash, both are having the same path difference, they interfere destructively. They superpose on each other with the opposite phase, so that there will be destructive interference, so that the point P dash becomes a point of minimum intensity. A dark band is produced at that point. See, for every wavelet wavelet from AO having path difference lambda by 2, there is a wavelet from the part OB having the same path difference lambda by 2. When they travel with an angle theta and when they meet each other at P dash, they superpose on each other with the opposite phase, so they cancel one another's intensity, so intensity becomes 0, or a minimum intensity band is produced there. So point P dash becomes a point of minimum. This is the first point of minimum, called first minimum or first secondary minimum. What's the condition? A sin theta equal to 1 lambda. Suppose the point P dash is such that the condition A sin theta becomes equal to 2 lambda, say. Suppose A sin theta is such that, suppose theta is such that A sin theta becomes 2 lambda. Now, what happens? This AB is divided into 4 equal parts. We divide AB into 4 equal parts, AC, CD, DE, EB. Each having path difference lambda by 2. Lambda by 2, lambda by 2, like this. 4 lambda by 2 is 2 lambda. So AB path difference is lambda by 2. What's the meaning? Wavelet coming from A, wavelet coming from B. They differ in path by 2 lambda. This is the assumption. So that A sin theta is 2 lambda. So that, see here, for every wavelet from AC, there is a wavelet from CD. They distract or they cancel each other. For every wavelet from DE, there is a wavelet from EB. They also cancel each other. So what's the resultant intensity? Again, minimum. So that, again, P dash is a point of minimum intensity, a dark band. Thus, in general, if A sin theta equal to n lambda, n is 1, 2, 3 and so on, a diffraction minimum. If A sin theta is n lambda, a diffraction minimum is formed at the given point P dash. So that, see here, in this pattern, when A sin theta is 1 lambda, this is the point. These 2 points. When A sin theta is 2 lambda, this minimum, second minimum is produced. 3 lambda means third one, and so on. In this way, the different minima on either side of the central maximum are produced when the condition A sin theta equal to n lambda is satisfied, where n is an integer, 1, 2, 3 and so on. This is the condition for the secondary, the minima are called the secondary minima. Central one is central maximum, and on either side we have secondary minima when A sin theta equal to n lambda. This condition is satisfied for the given theta. So first minima, theta is theta 1, second minima, theta 2, third minima, theta 3 and so on. For the nth minimum, theta becomes theta n. So depending on the angle of diffraction, the different minima bands are produced on either side of the central maximum. Now, let us see what is the condition to produce the secondary maxima. See in the pattern, see here. This is the pattern. See in this pattern, these are all minima and these are all maxima. These are called the secondary maxima on either side of the central maximum. See, these are the secondary maxima. First secondary maxima, second secondary maxima, third secondary maxima, and so on. Now, what's the condition to get this maxima? So, this is the first maxima. This is the first maxima. To get this, suppose theta is such that, this angle of diffraction theta is such that A sin theta is 3 lambda by 2, say. A sin theta 3 lambda by 2 means these two wavelets, these two corresponding points, the difference, path difference is 3 lambda by 2. The path difference between these two corresponding points, A and B, is 3 lambda by 2. Now, divide this AB into 3 equal parts, each part lambda by 2. 1, 2, 3. Each part is lambda by 2. So, the path difference between these two corresponding points, lambda by 2, these two also lambda by 2. These two also lambda by 2. Now, see here, when all these wavelets, they travel to reach the point P dash, the wavelets from these two corresponding points, they cancel each other. Whereas, this one remains there to produce the intensity. So, this wavelet, the wavelet coming from this part, they produce the intensity, so that point P dash is a point of maximum intensity. Or there will be some intensity there. It's a point of maximum intensity, but the maximum intensity is not that much as that of the central maximum, but a maximum intensity band like this is produced at the point P dash. Now this is the second secondary maxima. Now what would be the condition? Theta should be such that A sin theta is 5 lambda by 2. Same thing, 5 lambda. If you divide this one into 5 parts, 4 parts, they cancel each other. Wavelets from the 4 parts, they cancel each other. Fifth one is remaining. That produces intensity, but the intensity produced is less than this one. Intensity of this band is less than this. In this way, in general, if A sin theta is 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, then for different values of theta, then these secondary maxima of decreasing intensity on either side are produced. See, for example, A sin theta 1 is 3 lambda by 2, secondary maximum. A sin theta 2 is 5 lambda by 2, this maximum. A sin theta 3 is 7 lambda by 2, this maximum, and so on. This is how the secondary minima and secondary maxima are produced. The produced maxima and minima in the diffraction pattern are explained theoretically like this. These are the conditions given. This is about the diffraction of light in a single slit. And this is the diffraction pattern. Here, the path difference are taken along the x-axis, intensity is taken along y-axis. By plotting them, we get the pattern like this. This is the central maximum. Now, suppose in the setup, the screen is far away from the lens. The distance of the screen is large from the lens. Now, you can approximate these rays into other straight lines. When the screen is at larger distance, these rays can be, this bending you can neglect so that you can take it as a straight line. So then, see here, if it is, say, central one. So, if you approximate this one to a straight line, then, see here, if you define tan theta, what is tan theta? Tan theta is opposite x by the distance. Distance is taken as focal length of the lens. When the distance of the screen is large, the distance, and the lens is very close to this, the distance is taken as a focal length. So that tan theta becomes x by f. In that case, see, tan theta is x by f, and when theta is very small, we can approximate tan theta to theta itself, so that we get theta is x by f. What is f? Focal length of that lens used. Now, for the first minimum, to get this first minimum, the condition is A sin theta is lambda. This is for the first minimum. Theta small means sin theta is approximated to theta. So that A theta is lambda. What is theta? X by f. Substitute. You get Ax by f equal to lambda, or from this x equal to f lambda by A. If focal length of the lens, wavelength of the light used and the slit width are known, we can calculate distance of the first minimum on the screen. X nothing but distance of the first minimum on the screen from the center. So this distance there on the screen, that can be calculated using this. And this is about the diffraction of light, Fraunhofer diffraction at a single slit. With this, I stop here. Let us discuss Fraunhofer diffraction at double slit in the next class.